the next activity is that we're going to take a deeper dive into one object. But before we do that, I'd like to introduce Chris Milk, who's leading this session. And Chris is, where is Chris?
Basically just
There
saying
hi.
Yeah. My background is as a teacher educator at Texas State, but taught for 10 years and continuing to teach for 10 years. More than anything, so excited to hear all your ideas.
Thank you, Chris. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to project an image onto the screen. Can everyone see it? Yes. Okay. So we're going to do an activity to get together that is called See, Think, Wonder. And what we'll do in it is first, I'd like to ask people to just put into the chat, what do you see? So this isn't yet trying to make meaning of it. It's just really, it's just sharing, what do you see? Like maybe you see this darkish purple sky, you know, something like that. So you're really going to let your eyes wander over the entire image. Okay, so go across the top, take in the corners, go down the edges, across the center, you know, really take in every little piece of it and just put into the chat what you see. And we'll take a couple of minutes for that. There's so much to see in here, isn't there? Would someone please volunteer to read out from the chat? So it goes back to 9:35. So the first one is a mural.
I will.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Makina.
Sure. Starts from a mural painting of a person next to a White House building. Dominant heart, a heart. Cesar Chavez. It looks like some bricks have images on them, but I cannot tell exactly what they are. A family in the distance. A prison. Scales. A river. A residential neighborhood. An accessible ramp. 2 bikes. So a bikeable neighborhood. Comfortable weather. Mural located at neighborhood gathering point. A no trespassing sign. The bricks at the bottom have different images. One of those is a justice scale, a White House that looks like an East Austin house, 3 different buildings. One looks like a house, one looks like a prison or a school, and one is a building on stilts.
Great. I think there were a few more above from where you started. Let's go back. Not many, but if you go back, oh, actually there are a bunch, so let's be sure to get those. So if you go back to 9:35, it says a mural and then what looks like a Native American under the roots of a tree.
Mm-hmm. A heart, a business sign, a burst of light in lucha. The chain of the handcuff is broken. A heart, native. I see light shining out. La Virgen de Guadalupe on the cloud. Resistencia bookstore. Hand in cuffs. A fist breaking through chains. Tattoos.
Great. Thank you. So, so now let's move on to, what do you think about what you see? I'll put that in chat. So this is, in this part of the activity, this is where you start to try to make sense of it. Why is the chain broken? What's the light that I see? What's the use of color? Anything that it makes you think. There are no wrong answers. That's the beauty of this. These are such great comments coming in. Can we have a volunteer to read these out? So we go back to 940.
I can read for us.
Thank you, Travis.
Yeah. Freedom is in view, emotional struggle. The heart of the imprisoned person fighting will break their chains. Hardship and spirituality in nature/land. Progress, but struggle is still going on. The heart is strong, will fight for freedom. Opportunity for upward mobility. It's not an accident that the building on the left could be a prison or a school. Portrayal of different identities relate to the intent of the theme/atmosphere of the bookstore. Family, community, knowledge, heart equals power. History and experiences. Life is rich and full of color, struggle, triumph. People from all backgrounds have or have been fighting for their freedom/equality. I think this mural is representing Indigenous identity is the heart of this community. The acknowledgement that the roots of our land is Indigenous land. History and memory. I mistook the public school for a prison since it's depicted as cold and gray with bars on the windows. It's in contrast to the colorful, rich depictions of culture. Strength comes from one's roots in the ancestors. Foundations, culture. Connections between a heart, sun, and moon. Symbols of life, love, and rebirth. Ideas of community and strength. It could be a prison, looks like bars on the windows as you zoom in, but schools also have bars on them. Says something about how our schools were designed. Past, present, future, and that's all.
Wow, thank you. So 3 of you spoke about the schools, about the school prison piece. Would any of you like to say a little more about that?
Well, the prison pipeline is a real issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see how those connections can begin to come up.
Yeah.
And honestly, that building looks almost exactly like the school that I just taught in. Like the brutalism architecture, it's not a comforting place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd like to just add on to what y'all have said already, which is like the school to prison pipeline is not only like built into sort of the fabric of society, but it's also like built into the buildings. Like it's almost like when buildings that are made quote unquote for kids look like that, it sort of embeds in students like what life might be like for them in the future.
Wow. One thing sorry, go ahead, please, Whitney.
Sorry. I like all the observations that everyone's making. It's making me think more about the intention of the image. And I think I loved the first thing I was drawn to was that is the bookstore. And that it is like a bookstore that it's like, this is a way to resist. I think one of the things, like one of the uncomfortable realizations I had about myself is like my first instinct as a former English teacher was like, oh, literacy, reading is freedom. But I think that's one of the platitudes that's often like kind of an empty promise of like education is freedom and you can do, and it's like, but then the image, the mural really does depict kind of what our nation has done to what should be something that gives people freedom and hope, but it really can further entrap people.
Yeah. So we have 5 minutes before we break. Why don't we take just 1 minute and pop into the chat, what does it make you wonder? And then everyone read the chat yourself so you see these coming in, because I want to kind of close us out before we go into break. Or I'll just read them as they come up. I wonder who painted it. What does this face? Street? Neighborhood? I wonder where the Resistencia bookstore is. I wonder what titles are sold here. I wonder if it still exists. I wonder if the bookstore is facing any issues due to gentrification. I wonder how different people have interpreted the mural, people who live in this community, people who come to visit, etc. I wonder what document the hand is holding. I wonder if the mural is still there. I wonder what my students would make of it. I wonder who sees the mural. I wonder which demographics frequent the store, young, old, male, female, rich, poor. I wonder if the painter had freedom of theme. I wonder what the artist's intended purpose and message was. Yeah, so many questions. So continue to put them up as you have them. The reason we wanted to start out with this is this exercise, you can see how you can adapt it to the classroom, right? I mean, this is my first time seeing this mural. And Futa is going to tell us just a little bit more about it. But I think the main thing I want to say is that you can adapt this anywhere. This conversation went in a way I didn't think it would, and it's like perfect, of course. And over time, as you do what these thinking routines, I can talk more about them later, but the idea is that you develop this muscle in students, that they start to really trust their own responses to things, and they learn from everyone else's comments. And it's really just this wonderful habit to develop in the classroom, in museum workshops. And so if I could just ask Futa to speak to us a little bit and give us the context, and then we'll go into break. And then after that, Chris will sort of help us put all this together in terms of putting it into the context of the classroom.
Okay, actually, I'm going to pass it to my colleague, Cassie. I believe
okay.
she actually took the photo too.
Yeah, so this was on the outside of Resistencia bookstore, which used to be in South Austin, and then it moved to East Austin. So it was on Cesar Chavez. I think it actually had been on Cesar Chavez before then, before it moved to South Austin. And you're right, it was a product of gentrification, and is now Resistencia bookstore, I believe, is on Montopolis. But this was founded by Raul Salinas, who was a famous Chicano poet from right here in Austin. And Raul Salinas actually went to prison for a very minor offense of having marijuana, and he went for decades, I think, to prison. And when he got out, he started a program for teaching youth students and juvenile detention center to write. And that program, I think, still exists. Resistencia bookstore still exists. And if you go there now, they have talks there, and they really do have resistance books when you go. I don't know, unfortunately, who painted this mural. And I'd like to think that it made it into the new building, but I haven't been to that one since it moved around the time, I think last year sometime when the pandemic was starting. So yeah, Raul Salinas is really remarkable. He has a lot of, involvement in the creation of the MAC. And what is Lincoln University, if you know that university, which you might hear coming up in the next video. So
that's awesome. Thank you.